Today we're going to show you how to change the broil element on your range, and it's a really easy job. All we're going to need is a Phillips screwdriver and maybe a pair of needle nose pliers. Let me show you how we do it. Now before we begin this repair, we will need to gain access to the back of the range, so we're going to want to pull it away from the cabinets far enough that you can get access to the back of it. We'll also need to disconnect the power, so simply pull the plug, or if it's a hardwired, you'll need to locate the breaker or fuse panel and disconnect the power there. And once we've pulled it far enough forward, you can start by opening the door up fully, and we'll remove the racks and set those aside. Now the broil element is held in place with one screw on either side at the back, and then two more at the front of the element that secure it to the ceiling. So simply remove all four of those screws. Now that we have removed all four screws for the broil element, we can now go to the back of the range and remove the access panel there. Now to remove the back panel, we'll also have to take this upper support panel off. And there are two little covers that hide two screws in behind, so we will need to remove those as well. So we start with that, and then remove the two outer screws that secure that cross piece. And set that aside. Now I have access to 3 screws across the top and 3 more down each side. So remove all of those. Then there are also 2 more on the bottom that I suggest you remove. You could tilt that panel out far enough, but it's just much easier to remove those last 2 screws. Now you can just pull forward at the top. Use caution on the edges of that metal, it may be sharp. And then you can lift that tab out of the bottom, and we'll set that aside. Now with the back panel removed, we have access to the terminals for our broil element, and we can simply just pull those off of the element. And you'll note that there are 2 different size terminals on each end. And if they're on there fairly tight, just take your needle nose pliers and pull those off. And just make sure that those terminals are in good shape, and tighten them up with pliers if you need to. And then we'll pull the old element through from the front. And we'll also inspect each of those terminals. If there's any signs of any arcing or corrosion, you will need to replace those terminals. And just pull that element through from the front, straight forward, and then discard it. We'll take note that the front mounting bracket may have moved somewhat in shipping, so it may be easier to install the rear screws first. So we're going to set that up into position, make sure that we clear the temp sensor, then carefully insert the new element through those openings. And secure the mounting screws. And line up the rear screw hole. And once we have all 4 screws in place, we can tighten them up securely. Now with the element pushed back into position, we can reconnect the wires and make sure we have a nice snug fit on those terminals. And if they're a least bit loose, take our needle nose pliers and just crimp them a little bit. And then we can put the back panel back on. We'll start by setting the bottom in place first and making sure these 2 outsides fit around the raised tabs at the back. Now, just make sure we have it positioned so those 2 bottom screws will line up, and then we'll reassemble. Then just continue your way around that back panel. Make sure we have all those screws nice and tight. Now position that cross piece. And then the two intermounting screws. And then the two small access covers. There's two little hook tabs on the end that we need to engage first. And then line up the screw hole and secure it. We can now push the range back into position and reconnect the power. Now with the back panel back on and the range plugged in, we can reinstall the racks. And our repair is complete.